Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you one way you can use the Git version control system in your Ignition projects. So let's jump right into it. I think it's better to show you what I mean than try to explain what a versioning system is, what Git is, and so on. So the first thing you want to do is create a GitHub account. I already did this beforehand. Also, while you're in your browser, you can download this tool here, git-scm.com/downloads. It's a Git tool. It comes with Bash, but you don't need to download this tool. It's just helpful. I'll show you what it does and how you can use it. So you go to this downloads page and you choose your operating system here and then go through the download process. Make sure when you're going through the download process you select to add the right click context menu in your Windows Explorer. That way you can have you can right click in a Windows Explorer directory and open Git Bash in that location. This is not mandatory though, so if you want you can download this Git tool. So this account is mandatory for this tutorial. I already created one beforehand. Let me go ahead and sign in. Okay. Okay, cool. This is what you're going to see if you just created your GitHub account, or even if you've had one before. You'll see something similar to this when you log in. First thing we're going to do is create a repository. A repository is basically it's like a directory or a folder on your Windows machine, and it quite literally will be a directory or a folder on your Windows machine here in a few minutes. So let's create a new repository. This will make more sense. You don't need to understand every part of a version control system to start using it. So I'm just going to call it Ignition Perspective, something like that. Okay, and just give it a description. This repo will contain Ignition projects. Okay, public versus private. This is basically anybody can search for your username and see your repository. So if you have public projects, this would be the location. But if you have anything private, Ignition projects might be private. They might contain information that can identify you. So it's up to you whether you want to make them public and private. You can also choose who you want to share your repositories with. So if you work in a team and you want your coworkers to see your repositories, you can invite them. So you can set it to private and still have other people collaborate with you on your repositories, on your projects. So it's up to you. I'm going to delete this repository after this video anyway, so I'll just set it to public. And then let's go ahead and click Create Repository. Okay, once you're at this screen here, copy, make sure HTTPS here is selected, and then copy this here, this URL. And let's open a command prompt. Make sure you open it as an administrator. This is important here. So if you installed Bash, you can also use, the Git tool I was talking about earlier, you can use that shell instead of the command prompt that comes with Windows. Let's change to our Ignition installation location. So if you're on Windows, it should be C program files, I believe, inductive automation, Ignition. Let's see. Okay. Let's change to data, and then projects, I believe, is the directory. Okay. So for example, say I want to track the changes I make inside my charts project. I'll show you what it looks like in the designer here in a second. I want to track the changes there. Let me change directory into charts. So let me actually open a file explorer so that way this can be more This is going to be clearer if you can see it in the File Explorer. Let me find inductive automation. Okay, so here we are, ignition, data, projects. This is the same directory I'm at in my command prompt. Charts. So for my in my use case, I want to keep track of the changes I make in the charts project. Let me actually open my designer as well. Let me open my designer and I'll show you what the charts project looks like. Okay, so it's this project here. All it is just the Gantt chart. I think I made a video on this. I might have, I might not have. I'm not sure. This is just a sample project I was messing around with. In my case, I'm going to pretend I want to track the changes in that repository and have a bunch of versions of changes. You'll see what I mean by that here in a second. So it corresponds, that project corresponds to this directory here. The files in this directory contain the data of the project, so project layout, and any metadata. So there's a perspective, the perspective module files, and then the Webdev module. Anything that has to do with that project will be in this directory here. So I want Git to track this directory. Any changes that happen within these 3 folders and within this file here, I want to track those changes in Git. So what I'm going to do once I copied, so I'm going to go back and copy this, make sure it's copied. So the first command we're going to run is called git clone. Okay, so git clone takes a repository that's on GitHub. So you can git clone any repository. For example, you can go on GitHub and find inductive automations SDK examples and clone those to your local machine. Basically, it's like a FTP transfer, or it's just like a download. It's similar to a download. So git clone, we want to clone the specific location. We want to clone our repository. So let's paste. You've got to be kidding me. Let me go back and copy this once again. Copy. Edit. Come on. I'm going to have to do things the old school way. So let me, I don't know why I can't paste that in there, but I should be able to just type in the HTTPS github.com div automation.git. Okay. Oh, repository not found. I don't know why it's not allowing me to paste. That's weird. Let me copy this. Git clone into here. Okay, so this warning here is normal. You appear to have cloned an empty repository because we had nothing in our repository. We just created it. Okay, you can see the changes that it made here. It cloned or downloaded a folder here. Inside our folder is where our repository will be. But in our case, we want to keep track of this directory here, not. So if you just git cloned it, Git will keep track of anything that's inside your repository name here. We don't necessarily want that. I'm just gonna cut this, not cut, let me just copy this directory and paste it here. Okay, then I can just get rid of my repository name. So this .git contains basically metadata about your repository. So we want Git to keep track of these files, like we said earlier. Okay, so let's run another command. Git status will show us the status of our repository. It'll show us any uncommitted, basically untracked files. So if we run git status, you can see that we have our 3 directories here that are not tracked, that aren't added in GitHub, and we can see our file. It corresponds to these 3 directories and this file here. So let's go ahead and add them to GitHub. How do you do that? Well, just using git add. Also, you can run git help and you'll get all the common commands. But we're going to add them to be tracked by GitHub. Basically, we can run, let me run git status once again, and then git add, and then we can say our folder, our directory name. There we go. We can add this one first, or we can add all 3 of these, or all of the files to be added by just using a period. So git add all of them. If we run git status again, we should see the same directory, but it should be green. There we go. We added all the new files. Okay, let's commit them. A commit is basically a snapshot of the state of those directories and those files inside the directories. It's a snapshot of the state of that directory at that point in time whenever you run the commit. So commit, I like to include the A flag. I don't remember what the A flag does. Okay, it commits all files. That's what I thought. Okay, let's run git status once again. Git commit -a, commit all files. We don't have to go through them one by one, or you could if you want to commit only some files. And then I also like to add the M flag, which is just to add a message. So initial commit. There we go. Okay, so if you haven't run git commands in your command line before, you're going to get this message, and you're going to have to add your git username and your email. So let me run the commands. Let me add --global user.email is the email I use to sign up for GitHub. So this will be different for you, obviously. And then the same thing, but user.name. It's your username. Okay, and then let me run the commit command again, and it looks like it committed them. And then if we look, all of our changes are committed. And okay, the last command you want to run is git push. Push will push your changes, just like it sounds, into GitHub so that you can see them in GitHub. So let's just run git push, enter. So it saved my credentials from last time when I was testing this, but at this point, if you haven't used Git, you're going to get a pop-up window asking you for your credentials. You're going to open a browser and then just type in your GitHub username and password, and then those credentials will be saved. If you need to, if your password changed, this is just a tip. You can go to your control panel, credential manager, choose Windows credentials, scroll to the bottom, or scroll until you find Git credentials, and then delete those, and then it'll just ask you to re-enter them. Okay, it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Let's go back into our browser. Let's refresh this here, and we'll see our directory was populated here. We can go inside them. It's basically, we're just previewing what the directory looks like. So this, my path here, ignition perspective, my repository name. So if I look inside my file explorer, if I go to perspective, views, Google Charts, Gantt, and then view.json, if I open this in a notepad, okay, if I open it, it'll basically be the same thing is what I'm trying to say. So all of our files here are now in GitHub. Okay, you might think, well, why should I upload them to GitHub? Well, the power really comes when we make changes. So let's go ahead and make a change. Let's add a view. You can actually make any change. You can probably even change a property here. So let's add a view, new view, and we can call it pie chart or something. It doesn't really matter. So let's create a view. Doesn't matter what this is. The point of this video is not really to create a view. Let's go ahead and save, and then, well, actually, let's cancel. Let's just save. If we go back to our command line and we run git status again, we'll see that there are files and folders that changed that you need to add once again so that those files will be tracked. So if we go through the process again, let's just git add all of our changes. If we run git status again, we can see that all of those new files that were modified when we made our change, when we added a new chart, we can see them there. When they're green, that's a good sign. And then we want to commit them, added pie chart. I'll show you where this message comes in as well, and then push them. Cool, it looks like it pushed successfully. And then if we go back here, refresh, let's go to history. We can see, so our message that we added pie chart, it corresponds to this commit message here. So this, whatever when you use the -m flag, you can kind of keep track of what changes you made. And then you can see your commit here. Well, you might say, why do you need a version control system? Well, you can go to your commits for this repository. So go to your repository here, and then go to commits. So you can click on the commits, and then you can click on that, and then you see exactly what changed. So you can see your timestamp changed when the last modified. Obviously, it makes sense. We saved files since then. You can see the folder, or you can see the file that changed, what exactly was added. If something was deleted, you'll see that here as well. So let's go back in our project. This is the last thing we're going to do. Let's just delete that node there, save again, and then let's run git add, git commit -am, removed pie chart, git push. Okay, and then when we refresh, so let me refresh, oops, go back to my repository, go to commits, there's my commit message, and then I can go in here. Oh, okay, so the file was deleted, so it's not being tracked. Here's the file that was deleted. Basically, not only was this text deleted, the file itself was deleted. So that wasn't as clear as I thought it would be. But basically, if you keep the file there but just change it, you're going to get this here. So red means it was deleted, and a little minus sign means it was deleted. Green means it was added. One last thing I want to show. So if you go to your repository, you'll see that there's this helpful tool here that picks up it picks up what the most common language is in your repository. And there's it's Python here because we have a lot of, I'm not sure which file it's in. It's in here somewhere. There's a lot of Python files. So okay, you can see here all of these Python files. So if there's a certain type of file you want to ignore and not upload to GitHub, say you have environment variables stored in a file or something like that, there's a type of file you can add to your directory. It's called a .gitignore. So let me open File Explorer and then browse once again to that location. It was C, program files, inductive automation, data, projects. Here we go. There's a file you can add. So let's add a new, okay. Interesting. I want to add a new file. I don't have the permissions, that's why it's doing that. But let me go back here. New file. Okay. .gitignore. Let me copy this guy and then go back here. Continue. So it's a text file. We actually don't want it to be a text file, I believe. I believe we just want it to be. So let me just .gitignore is what we want to call it. There we go. And then let's modify this file here. So look up on the internet how to write gitignore files, but basically say you want to ignore all the Python files. So we can use a wildcard and then .py. This will ignore Python files, and then next time we add, basically it won't upload any files with the .py extension. That's the last thing I wanted to cover. There are a lot of great tutorials how to use Git, the most common types of commands. So git, add, commit, push. Also, you can look at more advanced topics like branching and pull requests. Those are also common development methodologies or tools, I guess, that Git provides. I didn't want to as much focus on Git as I did how to implement it using Ignition or for an Ignition environment. Anyway, that is all I have for you. Let me know if you want to see something else about Git. I did just intend this to be a beginner kind of introduction. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below or on Discord. I'll include some useful links in the description. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for continuing to watch my stuff, and I will see you in the next video.